Hello everybody, this is Llodg, and today I'm talking about one of my favorite games of all time, LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga. Honestly, I don't know if I'd be into games or Star Wars as much as I am if I had never played this game. The first LEGO Star Wars game I played was the first one that released on the Mac, where it was only episodes 1 through 3, and you were in Dexter's Diner for the hub world. Anyway, I don't remember too much about this version of the game since I didn't get very far. I do remember being confused on what keys to hit and having J and K be jump and attack buttons. Don't even get me started on why WASD were the movement buttons and not the arrow keys. It'd be a few years before I understood that. I originally had LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga for the Wii, but one of my first memories of the game was going over to a friend's house and seeing him and his dad playing the game on the first level of episode 6 where you enter Jabba's palace. But from that I was hooked and eventually got my own copy and then the DS version, which I'll talk about a bit more later. And when I say I was obsessed with this game, I mean it. I played it so much. At school I'd constantly think about it. I played and replayed the levels practically a billion times. I know them so well. That doesn't mean I knew where everything was though. It wasn't until a few years ago that I decided to actually go through and 100% complete this game, and a couple of weeks ago I finally did it. I got every character, every red brick, every mini kit, I got every blue challenge kit, and I even did the super story speedrun for every episode. I did literally everything the game had to offer, and I loved it the whole way through. Recently I've played some games that I wanted to 100 complete or even just do all the side quests, but it ends up with me being burnt out on the game and dropping it. But with LEGO Star Wars, something about it was different. Maybe it's because I've known this game my entire life, but it was really fun to finally finish it and do everything. Maybe it was finally understanding game design and what the developers wanted me to do, like spelling out the word LEGO. The gameplay is honestly fairly simplistic. Most levels have you and at least one other character run through the level, defeating enemies, building structures, solving puzzles. There are different character types like Jedi, characters with blasters, droids, bounty hunters, and these character types even have special abilities for each type, like Jedi are able to use the Force, or anyone with blasters can grapple. There are even differences based on what character you are, like Sith can use the Force on these dark bricks with red Force particles, Luke can Force choke Gamorrean guards, like you could in episode 6. There's a lot of detail in here, even with how simplistic it may seem from the outside. In the levels, you have to switch between different characters to be able to solve puzzles, which I think was a great way to have puzzles in this game. It never felt like I really had to solve anything, since most of the time it would be you having to get your droids who can't jump up to the platform for them to access the terminal. My favorite character that I always run free play levels with is Return of the Jedi Luke with his green lightsaber. For one, his minifigure just looks really cool in this outfit, and it's the perfect Luke. I also really loved playing as Ghost Obi-Wan. Honestly, all the ghosts are so cool since they are invincible, but Yoda is stuck walking with his cane slowly unless you have his lightsaber out. And I just don't like Anakin's episode 3 design in this game. The face and hair are just so weird, and I'm so thankful they fixed his design in later games. But I also really like to make my own character. It's one of those things that I always love to do when playing LEGO games, and especially LEGO Star Wars games. Sadly, you can't have your custom character use a yellow lightsaber, you'll have to wait for Star Wars 3 for that. There are also a few vehicle levels, and most of these kind of more open levels, but there are a few, mostly in the prequels, that are much more linear. There's even one that's basically a Star Fox level. The Battle of Coruscant level is one of those that I will always remember, because when I first had the original game on Mac, no matter what, I couldn't beat this level, because unlike all the other levels when you lose all your hearts you just respawn, in this level when you lose all your hearts or even barely touch a ship, you instantly crash and you have to restart at whatever your last checkpoint was. I barely knew how to move in this game, so I had my dad play the level to beat it for me. And I always think about watching him play the game for me whenever I play through this level, and I know in the Complete Saga it's a bit easier, but now it's one of my favorite levels to play. I also loved playing the last two levels in Return of the Jedi. Both the Emperor fight and the flight into the second Death Star were so memorable to me. Jedi Destiny was so fun because you got to play as Darth Vader, the only time you play as a villain outside of free play mode. The second Death Star level is also just a way better level than the first Death Star, which is why I prefer it. It also helps that the music is great in both these levels too. My absolute favorite level to play was the last level in Revenge of the Sith, Darth Vader. This level has you play as Obi-Wan and Anakin as they battle and help each other go through the level. This level is similar to the Battle of Coruscant where if you die, like jumping in lava, the level restarts at its last checkpoint, but I think since you're playing as characters and not flying in a ship, it's a bit better. I think I really enjoyed playing through the level over and over again to get better at the level, to where I could do it fairly easily, and it was just so much fun to do. This level is also special because it's you and a potential player 2 playing as Anakin and Obi-Wan, so you're actually working together and fighting against someone who you've been playing the game with from the first episode. I think it makes the level so memorable because of it. Overall, I think I prefer the levels from the first game compared to the levels of the second game. The prequel levels were fairly shorter and felt much more linear than those of the original trilogy, That's not to say the original trilogy levels aren't linear, because they are, but like all the vehicle missions in the prequel levels are all so much more linear, and thus don't take as much time compared to the newer levels. I mean, look at my times in the Super Stories. Look how much shorter the first 3 episodes are compared to the last 3. Though there are some missions like Grievous's boss battle that were literally just a boss battle in an arena, which makes the level go by much faster. The bounty hunter missions were also very memorable to me, because I didn't play them too much when I originally got the game, and that was because I guess I never unlocked all the bounty hunters, but I know my friend had unlocked it, so when we played at their house I just barely, but also pretty vividly, remember going into that area outside for them. This can be applied to a lot of those extra missions at the end of each episode, like where you play as Darth Vader in New Hope. Lego City and Newtown were also ones that I love to play and mess around with my friends in those levels. I just never could get a million studs because I wasn't smart enough to know what to do, and in those levels you really have to do everything you can. Also, I'm not sure why, but the Emperor's Room in the Jedi Destiny level was completely unknown to me until I played the game again on the 360 and tried to unlock everything. I'm not sure if I just completely forgot about this room or what, but now I really like it. The sound effects in this game will always be etched in my brain for all time. I mean, back in May when they re-released the Phantom Menace in theaters, I heard some music getting played and all I could think about was how it was a track you'd hear constantly in LEGO Star Wars. This game is the reason I probably know Star Wars music so well. That's not even mentioning the character death sound effects. So many of them are incredibly memorable. Here are some of my favorites. I also thought that this game was much more exact to the movies it was retelling. I vividly remember rewatching Empire Strikes Back, and when Han, Leia, and Chewbacca were captured by the Empire, I remember thinking, why doesn't Chewbacca start ripping stormtroopers' arms out like he can in the game? Or that Luke tried to grab a mug and not a blaster? Or that clones weren't affected by Jedi mind tricks, and that they were helmets just flipped around their heads. That made my opinion of Rex much lower when Ventress did it to him in the Clone Wars movie. The cutscenes in general are really funny. Even with all the mumbling and zero actual voice acting, it's fairly easy to tell exactly what part of the story they're trying to retell. The visual gags are also really good. In the scene of Obi-Wan and Yoda seeing Anakin go against the Jedi when he kills Shakti, I always thought it was Ahsoka from the Clone Wars movie for some reason. And I couldn't go through this video without mentioning the red bricks and extras you can get. Like, I love you can get stud multipliers and get a crazy high number when you do get all the stud multipliers and they just multiply together. A lot of them are great. I remember really disliking where it turns every character into like a shadow. For some reason that was just really weird to me and I do not like it. Like other ones where you're invincible or Jedi can grapple, they just made the game much more fun to me. And I always really love the invincibility power-ups you can pick up. For some reason, I don't really get why they're here, but they are always really memorable to me, and especially on the second level of Phantom Menace, I just always have to pick it up. Like I said earlier, I also had the complete Saga for the DS. This version was pretty much a lesser version of the console ports, but essentially the same. The notable differences were that in each episode there were only 5 levels instead of 6, vehicle levels had no free play, so they weren't very replayable, and there were even minigames. Also, I have to say the cutscenes are definitely trying to look nice. The beginning of the pod race level when Qui-Gon is pushing up the new hyperdrive, when he falls I always thought he turned into Chewbacca for some reason. It just made sense in my mind that Chewbacca showed up for this 1 second of the cutscene and then didn't return until Kashyyyk. I was at a friend's house one day playing LEGO Star Wars on the DS while they were playing it on their Wii, and I got stuck on the last mission in episode 1 and got stuck at the first section where Darth Maul had 2 droids shooting at you. And I didn't know you could reflect the shots back with your lightsaber, and it blew my mind when I figured out you could do it. I just remember restarting the level over and over again, and wishing Padme would stick around so she could shoot at the droids. Now while I'll always prefer the console versions, the DS port will always hold a special place in my heart for all the times I could play it on long car rides or vacations. I remember going to Target one day and seeing LEGO Star Wars 2 for the Nintendo DS. Now I didn't know what the complete saga exactly meant at the time, so I was thinking LEGO Star Wars 2 could be kind of different. Though my mom did say that since I had the complete saga, I already had all the stuff from that game. Despite this, I still ended up buying the game, and this game wasn't like anything I had ever seen before. While the console versions of the complete saga are essentially LEGO Star Wars 1 and 2 combined, the DS version was mostly just these console versions but remade with the DS in mind. But LEGO Star Wars 2 was its own separate game, and man, I honestly don't even know what they were thinking when they released this game. Everything about the game just feels lower quality to the complete saga, from the character models, graphics, level design, and even music. I don't remember too much about this game, because the level design was so poor that I could never beat the game. I honestly can't even remember anything from episode 4, but I assume I played through all those levels. In episode 5, I made it all the way to Luke being in Cloud City, and I got stuck. And I don't think I'll ever forget this, but when I tried to play episode 6, I got stuck on the very first level in Jabba's palace. I couldn't figure out what to do in this final room. You're supposed to jump up to Han's carbonite to free him, but the game was so buggy, I don't think it ever worked properly for me. When recording the gameplay for the video, I didn't realize just how much I would remember the sound effects for this version. I don't think I played it too much, especially compared to the complete Saga, but these sounds are just etched into my brain. If you ever want to experience one of the games I will remember for all time, try and play through this game on the DS. It's definitely an experience. I do like how you can play as Salacious Crumb of all characters. One day I want to make a video talking about LEGO Star Wars 3 because it was also a really big part of my life. I would include it in this video, but I want to make sure it gets its own video like it deserves, and because I have so much to talk about with it. The Force Awakens and Skywalker Saga are also pretty good LEGO games, but for me personally, they don't come close to the originals. These games really mean a lot to me, and again, I'm not sure I'd be as big of a Star Wars fan if it wasn't for these games. They really got me into loving Star Wars as a franchise. Being able to play it with friends had to be some of the most fun I've ever had playing a couch co-op game. I remember we'd be running in opposite directions trying to get the camera to follow us separately, and now that is a feature included in every modern LEGO game. I will always have a special place in my heart for these games, and even when we get new games that try to do things similar, I'll always go back to the complete saga. Let me know what you think about LEGO Star Wars The Complete Saga, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Have a good day, and goodbye.